Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today I have a special guest coming back to the channel, Mr. Meoni. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Apart from being really warm, it's a bit warm in the United Kingdom at the minute. I'm not used to actually sunny, happy days, so I was getting some rays earlier and, just sweating, in my studio.
You haven't done like the rest of your countrymen that basically immigrated to Portugal for the summer so that they just sit on our beaches the whole time.
Well, the same people that are being told to come back now because it's about to go into amber. Yeah.
Oh, right. Like I heard that they're putting us back on some blacklist or something that people aren't advised not to come to Portugal again.
Yeah, they have like a color-coded warning guide, and as soon as it goes into like amber before red, you have to basically leave the country if you're leaving it, because it's going to be basically either another lockdown for that form of tourism in your country, or it's just going to be like you're staying there, basically. So there was crowds and crowds of people. It was on the news here. People just waiting, and they're really angry because they wanted a really nice holiday, and now they're being told to go back.
So basically, they're packing up the custard cakes and going back home.
They are,
taking custard cakes.
Most people I know are just going to the coast in England, and we're just having one of those like oldie-timey staycations, they're calling it. Yeah.
But so before we jump into Final Fantasy XIV today, I wanted to ask you a couple of things, because I get a feeling that a lot of people don't actually know that you play Monster Hunter as well, because you don't really do content about Monster Hunter. You're just focusing on 14, which is the correct, which is the correct way to do it. It's like hone in on one type of content, because that way the algorithm tends to be a little bit more lenient.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, it's a decision that I had to make, and it is based exactly off of that, off of the algorithm, because I tried to play Final Fantasy VII, the remake on my channel, and that did not go very well. Like, it just bombed horribly and ruined like a good couple of months. It screwed it up for some reason. I can't explain it.
It's the domino effect. It's like YouTube loves you when your videos are doing good, and then if you make an unrelated video that doesn't do as good, like say in my case this video, then YouTube comes down with the hammer on you. It's like, bad, don't do that. Just do the other thing. It's so frustrating, because just yesterday I released a new Final Fantasy XIV video, which is not doing great, which it doesn't surprise me. But ultimately, I've long ago made that decision. Like, look, I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do, and YouTube's going to do whatever it's going to do, and I don't care. So long as it's still enough for me to make a living, I'm fine, whatever. I'm not too greedy. I don't care. But it keeps things fresh from a content creation perspective. But this way, you get an opportunity to talk a little bit about Monster Hunter before we jump into the meat of the show, and people get to know that you actually also play Monster Hunter. So you've been playing Monster Hunter Rise. You've played other Monster Hunter games before. How many hours have you put into Rise, give or take? Because you told me you're not at the end game just yet.
I haven't had a lot of time, but we have I say we because me and my partner play it a lot. Because
that's the best.
Yeah, she really likes Monster Hunter Rise. She'd not played a Monster Hunter before Rise, and I was like, "You're playing Rise because I am." And I need somebody to like go through this game with. So we've been playing that on and off, like when we get some time, and we've put in, I don't know how many hours. I don't know. My Switch is downstairs.
What hunter rank are you at, more or less? Like hunter rank 4, 5, 6?
I can't remember.
What's the last monster you fought?
Here we go. So we had the optional quests for like high rank Rathalos. I did that, and then there was I can't remember. I
believe that is hunter rank either 6 or 5. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's 6.
It feels like it's probably likely 6. Yeah, because I was fighting like, here's an optional quest with like 4 monsters to fight. Okay, right, that'll take me a while. I love that sort of stuff. Or is it 3 monsters? I don't know which. I love it when there's just tons of stuff on the screen at the same time with lots of stuff to avoid. It's good fun. But yeah, I've
But yeah,
just not had a lot of time, sadly.
yeah, I can imagine, especially with the relic grinds going on in Final Fantasy XIV right now, which we'll get into. But it's just
Mm,
like it's always fantastic when you have someone to introduce to the game for the first time. At least I find that to be
yeah.
like a special time, particularly if it's your partner. Like that just makes it all the better. But I've also gotten to introduce a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, to Monster Hunter Rise, and that was a fantastic time as well.
Yeah,
So
there's nothing like their first experience with something like a Rathalos, actually. That is a perfect example of a staple monster that just blows people away, or a Rathian, with the death spin of a tail and the poison, It's like just watching them walk into that and going, "Ah, where's my health gone?" Well, use an antidote.
so
Nullberries or whatever.
I'm curious, how do you feel about Rampage? Because this is a mode that's been kind of like divisive
Yeah.
among the community. How do you feel about it?
Rampage, when I was introduced to that through the obviously the storyline, I was like, okay, what is this kind of gimmick? It definitely felt like this is something different, but at the same time, it felt like just tower defense from other games I'd played. I was like, right, so it's tower defense, lots of monsters, and we have to maintain these like ballistas and cannons, and then you unlock new stuff. It's interesting, but I'm not sure it's really my cup of tea. It's not the sort of thing that, I mean, I haven't actively gone, oh, I really want to do Rampage mode again. It's more of, oh, look, more monsters are appearing in Rampage mode. I guess I'll do that at some point, and then never ended up doing it. So
Okay, I get it. It's like it's definitely not for everyone.
yeah,
It's a very like unique thing. I'm personally happy that they're experimenting with the formula and just like trying out new things to see what people feel about it. There's some people that love it, some people that hate it. I think I land a little bit in the middle. But there is fun to be had there, I feel like. But I can understand most people being like, Rampage.
I don't hate it. It's just it doesn't seem to offer maybe I don't know what you see. I'm going to say I don't think it offers enough for me to be like madly in love with it, but I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm going to answer when you next ask me, well, what would you add to it to make it better? I have no idea. I
Yeah,
have no idea what I want.
I don't think anyone has really, because the other problem with them is that they're also incredibly easy. Like, have you ever tried failing one?
Yeah, we did actually try to
Oh,
fail one because we had somebody come to the door and I had to accept a parcel, and so we both ended up going downstairs and just left it playing. And we came back and they were just banging on one of the final doors, and we're like, wow.
and they
okay.
still hadn't done it.
Yeah, and we were still managing to turn it around, and it was, I don't know, like 5-6 minutes or something that we were gone. So it's crazy. Just like
Yeah,
tons of stuff there beating against the door, and I'm like, are you guys gonna fail the mission for us or not? But no.
yeah. It's one of the things that I've been complaining about Rampage, is that they are a little bit easy. Now comes the hard question. This is a very hard question because
Okay.
in my channel, I can tell you right now that there will be wrong answers to this question, and the repercussions will be very severe.
Be gentle.
What is your main weapon?
Hammer.
Yes! This is good. This is the correct answer.
I
Good job.
love spinning around. I love sliding down mountainsides and spinning and smashing into monsters' faces. I love charging that up, keeping that charge, just smashing things to pieces.
Just
is so
impact
therapeutic.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's
impact crater. So good.
So therapeutic in that game. Like I used to play Greatsword in some of the older games, like
Also the right answer. Very good.
religiously that I would play that because I'd always want to take off tails, and I was always trying to, that was the therapy before, the slicing. Now it's like, oh damn, I can KO this thing multiple times. This is you feel like a god with a big, massive, just enormous mace in your hand that's made of like a skull. What's not to love?
Exactly. See, I'm very happy. I can tell that we're going the correct direction here, 100%. See,
What was the wrong answer?
if you had said longsword or bow, that oof.
Longsword's too easy.
Oh,
I'm sorry, guys. Longsword's too easy.
It's not even me saying it. It's the best.
I was expecting, I was like, oh, let's try out Longsword in Rise and Monster Hunter World. Both of them are as an example here of stuff I've played recently. I'm like, okay, that's easy. In Rise, my goodness, why is this so easy? Like, it was just untouchable, ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
it is a little bit overtuned. Even if you look at there's some speed running data that is going through the community right now, and Longsword is the best melee weapon for speed running at the moment, at least according to the community. This is not me. This is the speed running community doing their calculation stuff, because I'm not a speed runner. I don't know a damn thing about that.
Did it used to be dual blades a long time ago? Was it dual blades?
I think dual blades were really good in World when it came to melee. But the actual big dogs are always the bow guns, and this time around also the bow, because apparently they broke one of the bow's attacks or whatever, and it just does ridiculous. Like they can cancel animation or do something like that, and they can just like break through everything. It's insane.
That's amazing.
So what about your partner? What weapon is she playing?
She tried to play bow. I was like, are you sure about this? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, all right. And the further she's gone, the more she's been like, this is just, I'm bored. I'm like, okay, right. Because I've always been just keeping her, and she's just kiting around like a mad woman. And then she found that she loved hunting horn.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I was like, good. You like hunting horn? I was like, I have even more respect for you.
I am very happy. So both of you have good weapons, so this makes me very happy.
I have my buffs up all the time whilst I'm clobbering things. It's over very quickly. Every single fight. It's fantastic. I'm loving it. But we don't get a lot of time, sadly, because of my addiction to 14. So.
And content creation. And it's like, basically, I think a lot of people still don't understand that content creators, when we're playing video games, we need to be playing games that we can create content around. It's very hard to carve out time to play a game that you can't create content around. That's why I always feel the need, I need to create content about other games, even if it's not successful, just so that I can feel okay playing them. I don't feel guilty when I play Final Fantasy 14. Whereas if I wasn't making content for it, I'd be like, oh, here we go again. Just going to waste some time playing this, waste some time having fun. Can't do that.
Yeah, I know exactly that feeling. And that's partly the reason why I stream like random stuff on Twitch. It's just like, why are you streaming this 30-year-old game? Because I kind of want to, and I need to tick off that box. But also, I don't know if you're the same with this, but you feel like you've got all of these games and you kind of need to tick off at least some of them, even if they're complete crap or whatever. You just need to validate you playing them at some point and just tick them off and prove that you've played them. So like the playthrough of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 at the minute on my stream is not because necessarily I probably wouldn't actually go and play those games off of stream. I'm doing it to force myself to play through those, to say that I've played all of the games then, because I still miss 1 and 2. Well, I did miss 1 and 2 and 3 off of my completed games list, but I've always put them off.
I don't really go about it that way. I usually just do that, but for games that I actually want to play, and I'll just be like, screw it. Recently, for instance, we had the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's like, I've played the Mass Effect trilogy already, but I feel like playing through this again. So I go and I just do it on stream, because now I'm like, hey, I'm making content. There's not really that many people watching, but I'm still making content, so it's okay. I can keep playing and enjoying this game.
As long as there's that one guy there that's cheering you on, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Even if you are that one guy at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, I did it. Oh dear.
Okay. But let's bring us into the meat of the show. We got to talk about some 14, and there's so much stuff to talk about. And the first thing I got to bring up, and I saw this in a Brian video yesterday, I think, which is, according to a website which I don't remember him saying the name of the website, but I was like, this morning I was like reverse engineering, and I was like, what website is this? But according to MMOpopulation.com, 14 has passed World of Warcraft in active users.
Okay.
Were you aware of this?
I wasn't aware of a website stating that, but I kind of had an inkling that would be the case anyway, judging by how many people I've seen just suddenly appear in terms of both viewership on YouTube and also more people asking questions and more people being in the game. It just feels naturally like we have skyrocketed in terms of the MMORPG that people instantly think of when they think of that genre now. I didn't know that like there was any statistics on that, and I don't know how trustworthy any of these sites are.
Yeah, exactly. That's the first thing that I'm thinking about. It's like, I don't know exactly how are they getting this data, because it's not like Blizzard or Square are announcing this publicly. So I'm wondering exactly where they're getting their data from. I didn't look too deeply into it, but I do think it is a possibility that 14 has surpassed it, because we've seen a lot of World of Warcraft content creators talking about Final Fantasy XIV. I'm not sure if you've been following this, but I've been following. Specifically Bellular. I've been following him, and I've been pretty much reacting to every single clip that he makes about Final Fantasy XIV, because it's actually a really good thing when I'm doing this on Twitch, because people come up with questions and stuff that they're curious about, and it always surprises me the amount of people that come into my chat and go like, hey, you guys think that this is a good time for me to buy this game? And I'm just like, no. You should just like play the trial. It's free, and there's over 200 hours of content in this trial. Yeah. Have you heard of the critically acclaimed Heavensward trial? You can play until level 60, no time restrictions, but it's such a meme.
You need one of those
right
t-shirts.
Now. Yeah, I've seen that t-shirt. It's
yeah,
really
same.
Cool.
I was like, I need to find who made that, and I need to buy that now. That's fantastic. Dear. But yeah, it's a good thing to see more content creators open their eyes a little bit and not have to. I think for the most part for WoW, a lot of people have been under the impression that the game will become something more than it is, and that they will find it evolve into the thing they want it to be. But after being let down majoritively, I think most of those people who have spoken out about it have just had enough. And Bellular is a perfect example. If you watch any of his, I don't know, recent spicy takes, I'm like, wow, I never thought I would see that. And it's really refreshing to see. And I think a lot of content creators are in the same boat that do WoW content. And also the player base sees that sort of stuff and go, actually, you know, maybe it is time to stop just giving Blizzard money and try something different. And I hope that more people do try other things instead of just instantly going, oh, it's a game for anime fans and what do they call it? Weebs. Or whatever. Yeah, it's like, it's a bit deeper than that. Yeah, you've got some stereotypes, but so does WoW at the end of the day as well. So
it's been a very interesting thing, the whole Bellular situation, because he is someone that, you know, I followed his content, and he has this professional image that he portrays with his Patreon, and like on his main channel, like everything's always super professional, very scripted, like really good production value. And then suddenly out of nowhere, this was like I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we start seeing those hot takes from his his podcast, and I was just like, oh wow, he said what? That's insane. And then more recently, he's actually just like diving in and comparing some things that 14 is doing to the stuff that WoW is doing. And, you know, why is 14, you know, why essentially there's such a difference in opinions from the player bases of these two games when it comes to like people that play 14, how they feel about the game, and people that play WoW, how they feel about the game. And it's just something that has been extremely interesting. I assume you've watched some of this stuff as well, then, because we were just talking.
Yeah, especially the my favorite thing was I was watching. It's quite a short clip of where he was talking about direct first impressions. I think that's the thing that lasted most in my head of what he would have gripes with, and then what he would see as like an improvement. And one of the things that surprised me the most was where he was basically saying that he's not bothered about the global cooldown.
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing that bothered me when I came from WoW myself, all those many years ago, was, wow, this global cooldown's awful. What on earth is going on here? And then you slowly start to realize that they drip feed you abilities, and then eventually it kind of works in this oiled machine, and it's balanced, and every class is currently viable at end game in raids. So it's, you know, it's quite impressive actually to see that.
He did have the advantage that he had his colleague Matt basically show him a class at a higher level, so that he could understand the way that it works with the OGCDs and all of this stuff. So it's not like he has already the notion that like, okay, so right now things are slow, but as you level up, things are going to get faster. Whereas most players, they'll play like until level 10 and they'll be like, oh wow, this global cooldown is terrible. I hate this game. This doesn't work. It's too slow. But yeah, when you actually show a player like a proper rotation, you're like, can we make the global cooldown just a little bit longer so that I can weave in another ability in there?
It's also a lot better than it used to be. Like, for example, well, anything really. You can imagine when you first played the game, you probably had abilities that didn't exist when I played the game at that level. They've done a really good job of going back, I think, when they start to filter things in and add higher level abilities into lower content and scaling that quite well. I'm trying to think of examples now.
I'll give you an example right now. Listen, when I started playing Final Fantasy XIV the first time, my paladin had an ability called Flash.
Yeah.
It's like he would raise the it's almost like Holy Spirit was just like you would raise the sword and go like pop, and it's just like this AoE thing that would give you threat. And I think Warrior at those lower levels actually didn't have a single AoE ability, which made it a lot harder to tank as a warrior.
Oh yeah, that is a perfect example now I think about it. Yeah, because that's where the disparity came. Like people were like, why would I play this? It's awful at tanking at this level in comparison, and now everything, it's much more refined. So I think that Bellular, as an example, represents someone who still sees that, but also I think that's a problem that they've fixed. The global cooldown is lessened as a problem because you've actually got a few extra abilities. Now, if Bellular or someone else had maybe tried to dip their toe into 14 a good couple of years ago, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, they probably would have had a completely different reaction to the game, honestly.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's something to definitely bear in mind. But that's the thing, you know, people have made criticisms, and the devs of this game actually play it. So that's why we end up with an end game that actually works coherently. They have QA testing. We might not have private servers, like for public testing and stuff like that.
But I actually think that's a good thing, because you know, you can have PTR and you can have people test and all of this stuff, but I think it's much more interesting that the community sees a boss together for the first time.
Yeah, and there is obviously data mining, but even then that's punishable by death on YouTube, to mention anything you've seen. So
But I think that there's an inherent value to the entire player base facing off against the boss for the first time, instead of like, you know, in World of Warcraft, pretty much every single raid tier, before you jump into the raid tier, the guides are already out, because the people that do the guides are the ones that are also doing the testing with Blizzard, and they're doing it for free, I think. It's just like doing QA for free, and a lot of the times those fights still come out glitched. But I think that they do a much better job with the raids and stuff, and it's always cool to see the community just come together for a raid for the first time. It's like, let's go, let's see what this is about. And then you see some crazy transformation, like, oh my God, what's happening? And the music shifts, which, good God, some of the music that we've been getting.
My favorite activity is, I'm never good enough to be in like the world race. You know, we do Savage when we come to it. Taking a break currently until Endwalker in terms of that for my progression. But every time it comes to the first week of Savage releasing, because usually we end up raiding in the second week or the day or two after everyone else starts, due to people's commitments. And I tune into Twitch, and my favorite streams are the world first races. They are absolutely insanely cool. like seeing people just the reactions of people like, whoa, the boss just did what? You know, and then they have to work things out and seeing all those mechanics. So yeah, it's a more exciting thing. Like Blizzard may have your challenge mode tournament or whatever they want to call that, and the PvP stuff, big spectacles on Twitch, but there's nothing like that world first race. And WoW never was able to properly capture that world first race excitement on a streamable platform, an audience-based platform, because of that testing, I think. People were more likely to tune into the PTR the PTR streams than they were the actual release of the content when it wasn't buggy and when the textures were all there. So what you get with 14 is you get to see this massive
for the first time.
Where you see like Mr. Happy or whoever it is, Arthur's or whoever it is, go in there and they, with their team, and they're breaking their head against the wall repeatedly until they find little small gaps in the armor, and they go, oh, we've been doing it wrong the entire time. And then you see that amazing phase transition on the fourth boss of each wing. Like the first time I saw Neo X Death on a stream, it shivers down my spine. Like the reaction from people were like, what on earth is this? Like there's another phase that the boss resets health, and suddenly it's this massive amalgamation of faces and creatures stuck together. That's Final Fantasy.
Yeah. It really is friggin' fantastic. Then I eventually do want to get into the Savage rating, but it's just the time commitment is extremely hard, particularly when 14 isn't even like the main game that I tend to cover, which makes it very hard to like, I'm just gonna carve out how many hours do statics usually rate for on a weekly basis?
It depends what static you're in, but we were able to pretty much clear everything in a previous tier in about, what was it, 8 hours a week.
See that's exactly what I'm talking about. 8 hours a week. That you're talking what, like so
that's 2 4-hour raids.
2 4-hour
Wednesday and Thursday.
2 4-hour raids. Okay. I thought you were going to say like 4 2-hour raids, because since in 14 there's no trash pulls, I would expect people to raid less time but more times. But yeah, twice a week, 4 hours. Yeah, it's almost impossible for me to do that, especially with family now. Just actually carve out, okay, this day at this time I'm going to do this and nothing else. Is like, yeah, that's harsh. It's going to be hard to do that.
I mean, when people have got basic strats down, from people making videos or guides or whatever on the internet, usually the pug scene is really, really, really quite good within the first few weeks of that content. Like if Endwalker comes out and you're in a position where you don't have a static still because of commitment or whatever it might be, then you've still got a great opportunity to clear that content within those first couple of weeks by just spending an hour or two a night, depending on what you've got in just Party Finder. A lot of groups just go at it crazy. There's a lot of people that prefer the pug setup. I mean, I'm not one of the people, but there are several people I know that clear the content before I ever even managed to touch half of it through the Party Finder. Like we have a guy in our FC, I'm not going to name his name, but he logs in only once or twice, like for like a week every time there's a major patch with a raid or an extreme in it, okay? And he'll log in, he'll say hello, and then he'll spend a couple of hours here and there looking at what the situation is of pugs. Then he'll log out. Then he'll log in the next day, and he'll like, right, the pugs have found this strat. He goes in there, he spends like a couple of hours a night during that week, and he clears the entire tier and then says, right, I've done my bit. See you guys next patch. And he logs off. And I swear that's exactly what he does.
Jesus Christ.
And he still has better progress than me.
To me it's just very, it's always hard because like I see the way that people do it whenever, I've seen videos of people joining Party Finders and how they go about doing things, and it's like I'm so used to the way that I used to do raids in World of Warcraft, where basically, you join a voice server and everybody's talking and whatnot, and that makes it a lot easier to just be like, okay, so listen, on this phase we're going to go like this, on that phase we're going to go like that, and everybody's, people have an idea of the fight, but there's different executions that you could do for different strategies and whatnot. Whereas in here, people are just like, okay, listen, learn this strategy, and then you go in there and they start putting markers on the ground, and you're just like, wait, what? It's like,
Yeah.
pick your position in the market. And I'm just like, okay, this is freaking crazy. This is wild.
It is a very weird community when it comes to that. I will admit that freely. Anybody coming from World of Warcraft will be like, what is going on here? Why are people suddenly typing H2, R1, etc. in chat? Especially on the EU side. The Americans apparently don't do that sort of arrangement. Apparently. They don't do the whole H2, H1 thingy. And the Japanese have a completely different way of doing it. But on EU, we do, oh, well, are you H1 or H2? And then depending on what healer number you choose out of those two, depends on where your position is for this mechanic and this mechanic. And then they post like 4 different macros.
The macros of the stuff showing positions, and is like, I think I tried doing that for the extreme, the extreme of 5.3. I tried doing that, and I was just like, Jesus Christ. I was looking at those macros and trying to figure out the positionings and the stuff that everybody was talking about. I was like, this would be so much easier if we were just on Discord talking, trying to read these walls of text. And they're like, for phase 1, this thing. For phase 2, this thing. Phase 3, that thing. And I'm just like, geez. And then when the Bahamut's come, you got to group up with this person and that person. I was like, I can't remember all this, dude. I can barely remember what I had for breakfast. I have terrible memory. It's so hard.
It's a lot to take in for sure. But once you get used to it, you start to realize that a lot of the pug scene in that type of endgame relies heavily on people watching YouTube videos and looking at guides that other people have created. The best of it is, though, in those first couple of weeks, like I say, where everything is up in that party finder and people are working that out. I think that's quite a lot of fun. It's not my perfect scene. I mean, I'm like you. I prefer having voice comms and hanging out with people that are going to be there every week. But for a lot of people, it's just the way it is. So I don't know. It'd be quite surprising to some people coming over. There's also a few other things that are different from WoW that I think people would have a bit of trouble adjusting to. Is that an FC, i.e. a guild, isn't necessarily who you raid with. That was the thing that really kind of just blew my mind and made me
very
angry,
weird.
Actually, when I first played. Like, my first impressions of this game were, wait, to do Coil of Bahamut, I can't do it with you guys. No, I have to join your static, which has a link shell, now cross-world link shells, because you go with a specific set of people, but you use a link shell for that. And then people are like, oh, Meoni, just think of link shells like guilds. I was like, well, I can't, because the real way
those are free companies.
Yeah, because a free company is more like a guild to me, because it has a house, it has like company actions, which are your guild buffs, it has a guild bank, and all that stuff. Why are those two so separated? So the way I've always done it, and it's the worst possible thing you can do, is try to implement the WoW leadership of a guild into this game. I've tried it for so many years, and people just like, why are we raiding in the FC? I was like, why not? People, for some reason, there's like this barrier mentally somewhere where people don't understand that you can do that. It's weird. Everything has to be a link shell for this or a link shell for that. I don't know. I'm still not used to it after all these years. But
damn, that is surprising to hear that not even you. I mean, you basically this is your main game that you play. You've been playing it for years, and you're still not used to that. That is so weird for me. Because I feel exactly the same way. Like, I would imagine that an FC would be something that you would join with people that have like common interests, so that you can, go raid together. I mean, that's pretty much how most World of Warcraft guilds are run. As a matter of fact, a lot of times people will be like, listen, you haven't logged in for like 2 weeks. You haven't been raiding. You've been sucking at raiding anyway. We're going to kick you from the guild. Like, that's it. People just like kick you out. You're done. Get out.
It got to the point where I was like, it feels weird to me. Okay, the problem I've got with it is if you join a link shell, right, with people from other servers to do something like high-end raiding, you're always questioning what they're doing at what time. They never they're not doing stuff outside of the raid with you. And as you know, a lot of people like to bond in doing dungeons and capping on tomes or whatever it be, or badges in WoW, whatever it might be, depending on what expansion.
And that's what you do with your FC.
Yeah.
Right?
which is really weird. So I do that stuff with my FC, but none of them are going to raid with me. No, I don't think so. So the way I've tried to do it is I've done the whole link shell thing, but I've slowly over the years like managed to drill this into the minds of the people that I raid with, so they've actually transferred to our server and joined the FC. That's the only way I could deal with it. I was like, well, we could be doing this, but it's not part of the static. It's part of our FC. And they're like, okay, all right, okay. And then eventually they come over, they join the FC, and then we start doing stuff together outside of the static. And suddenly, oh, look, we're making more progress. But yeah, for some reason, that's one of the things about FF that never rings a bell in my mind. It seems so dumb, but yeah. I don't know.
While we're on the topic of Savage, what would be your tips? Because there's going to be a lot of new players coming in, particularly I think also with Endwalker, because everybody's going like, to the moon, let's go. So there's going to be a lot of new players coming in. What are your recommendations for people that are looking to get started into Savage? Is it just go look through Party Finder whenever the raid is fresh?
I would say nothing can compare you to a set of people each and every week to work on progress together with. As much as you can do stuff through the Party Finder, I would say, yeah, you need a fixed group really to make the most progress, and to also efficiently farm the gear that you need, so that when somebody gets it, then they're not going to roll on it the next time, etc. Because gear is a very important component of Savage raiding in this game. There's usually 4 bosses in a wing, so that's like, as say for instance, a raid comes out and it's split into wings. If you're a new player to this game, okay, you always have 4 bosses per wing. There's usually 3 wings, right? So 3 content patches worth of raid. So you got all 4 available to you as soon as it opens, and you have to do 1, 2, then 3, then 4, and so on when the next ones come out. So you're better off if you can find people to work through that. Otherwise, you're going to still be hopping around between those as well for gear, and the gear will actually help you combat the 4th fight and the 3rd fight. Now, for your first couple of weeks, in terms of world first, they just go as fast as they can with whatever, if there's crafting gear available, they just pentameld it and go. But for the average Joe like myself, I include myself in this, the casuals, let's call it myself, that's fine. We still do the content, but we take it a bit at a time, and we need that extra bit of gear to feel more confident to go each time. But that's how I would say. And if you're looking to join a static, your best bet would be through the Party Finder, see if there's any recruitment messages, or to go on the recruitment Reddit. If you type into Google Final Fantasy XIV recruitment.
What about the community finder? Is that not something that people are using to find statics and whatnot, or is that just people are just using that for FCs?
Most people are using that for FCs or hunt linked shells. There are some people recruiting on there for static raiding, but there's very few. It seems more like just a place to post your FC. It's one of these weird things as well. Like, people don't use the tools in front of them as efficiently as they necessarily could be. And that's exactly my point with the whole FC versus link shell thing. I say the biggest piece of advice is don't join an FC expecting to raid with them or do anything with them. That's the biggest piece of advice.
Not anything, but like if you join an FC, expect to do like maybe, stuff to get your tomes, which is, just like maybe normal raids, not savage, normal raids.
Maybe extremes. Maybe extremes. If they're easy like they were this tier, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's a weird thing about FCs. Like, I actually wasn't even fully aware of that. Like, I was aware that I've kind of seen that from some people, but I was wondering if that was the norm or not. And I guess it is the norm. It's kind of a weird, different mentality. But I guess it's more that people just want to be in a guild to hang out with friends, and then they want to just like have a static to do their thing. Exactly, so that to kind of like separate the whole thing, because a lot of times what happens with guilds in World of Warcraft is that drama where like you have your friends, but unfortunately your friends are not that good at playing the game. So you have a problem because you can't raid properly because they suck.
but in WoW, we would solve that problem by demoting them to social rank.
Yeah, yeah. There's that.
That's
But
what it would be.
there's always a little bit of drama there, right? Because your friend's like, "Oh, I don't
Yeah.
play the game so good, and it kind of sucks." Like I've seen tons and tons and tons of drama like that over the years, which it's never a pleasant thing. So I guess that's how the 14 community kind of saw this. Like, no, listen, raiding is like working. Okay, we don't mix work business with pleasure here.
Yeah, you know, Barry, the person who's addicted to fishing, isn't necessarily going to be wanting to do, like, I don't know, coils unsynced or something, you know. I guess that's what it comes down to. But still, from my perspective, even after all this time, I'm just like, why can't we just raid with our FC?
Yeah,
why do we need this
weird.
person from Spriggan? Like, why do we need that?
Hey, what's wrong with Spriggan? What's wrong with Spriggan?
Just makes up. All right, Cerberus. There we go. Or like, I don't know. What's a server that no one likes comically? Moogle for some reason. I think that's the usual.
It is
usual.
Moogle? I mean, it's probably the name.
Reason.
Nobody likes Moogles. Let's be honest. I don't like Moogles.
Ooh, I can see the comments now. I can see it.
I mean, listen. I said in my live stream, because I streamed my whole experience through the MSQ, and that was that time in Heavensward. We're just doing a bunch of quests for Moogles, and I'm just like, listen. Here's what I'll do. I'll rip that stupid pompon off his head, cut it open, and then fill it full of like gunpowder, and then feed it back to him, and then I'll light the fuse on top of his head.
And that sounds like a Mythbusters episode. Like, what would happen if we filled a Moogle's palm with gunpowder and then lit a spark in his mouth? Would it go off? Yeah. Well, there's only one way to find out, really. Like a TV series based on that Rurikhan. It'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be great. So
Mission idea.
Before we move on to the next topic, I have one more thing from WoW content creators trying this out, and Asmongold.
Yep.
What do you think about the Asmongold situation? Because like I don't know if you've seen his reactions to Final Fantasy XIV or not. The vibe that I've been getting is that he's actually scared of the amount of drama that can be generated from his chat, because his chat is like wild. Because he has huge viewership, and as such, that tends to sometimes generate communities that are just like completely insane and unrealistic expectations. So it's like I get the vibe that he wants to try the game, but at the same time, he's scared of what will happen if he tries the game. I almost think that deep in his mind, he's also scared of what might happen even to the 14 community because of the stuff that his chat tends to do. Like, imagine him running through a server and there's like friggin' 100, 200 people just like following him around trying to, hey, Asmon, I'm here, the usual stuff. Like, what do you think about that?
I think for anybody who has an average of like 35 to 45,000 people watching at any one time, that's definitely full of concerns, especially with how that character is portrayed, how his character is portrayed on stream, and how his chat takes everything. So most people in his chat take that to heart, like they think it's 100% a serious like opinion or something, or reaction to something. I think that from what I've seen from when I've watched his streams, he would like to play the game, but he refuses to play it off of stream because he doesn't see the point of that. But also playing it on stream is going to be all kinds of, if he says anything, people are going to jump down his throat from the 14 side. And they do jump down your throat. I've had a lot of drama recently with me trying to defend Vieira, and everybody thinks I hate them for some reason, which is hilarious. You only have to say one thing, any criticism, and it can be quite fuel on the fire situation. So I can imagine that it's a big worry. But I think he would enjoy it, and I hope that at some point he gets the ability to try it out. From my own perspective, like, I want to let people know that they should try this game at least once before they poo-poo it. I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, I say the same thing about Terra Online. I'll play that game. I'm not going to have an opinion on it until I've played it. And now I've played it and I can have an opinion on it. But it's just his chat is potentially not great for him in those situations because of how he does things comically and things like that. I don't think it would impact his viewership. I think actually he would gain more viewership
People will be
because of that
super
potential.
curious. Yeah.
But the amount of stress that might place on him as a person as well as his character is, I've no idea, is astronomically off the charts what that could potentially give. But it could give a lot of positivity as well.
If
it
one
were
of those,
me, I'd try it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I feel like people don't realize on the internet, people often don't realize when they take things way too far. Like they think it's all one big joke to just like spam stuff in a chat. And then all of a sudden you see a situation like Wreckfuls, which is like, you know, what happened with Wreckful, like rest in peace. But it was pretty messed up that there was that one clip that people shared where there were just like people telling him, just pull the trigger already, and the dude's actually like crying because he's really getting emotional over it because he is suicidal, and people just take it too far because they think it's all one big joke. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to Asmon. I highly doubt it, but it doesn't mean that. It's one of those things where people underestimate the ability of negative comments to kind of like stick with you. Even in a stream chat or even in a YouTube comment, like people need to understand that negative comments, they stick with creators for a long time, for a long ass time. Like we'll be obsessing over negative comments like weeks after we've seen them, and they'll still be in the back of our mind. It's like, oh yeah, but that one guy said that one thing, and we'll obsess over it over and over and over. It's really crazy, which requires a lot of mental fortitude to deal with that stuff, especially when you're probably going to get it on a scale like Asmongold is, which it's friggin' insane.
I can barely deal with my own comment section, and chat's all right on Twitch, but the comment section on YouTube is just, I have to pull myself away. The amount of times where I feel like I need to reply to someone that's being just beyond anything.
Just being nasty.
Yeah, I type a reply and then I press backspace, and then I type a reply and then a backspace, and I'm just stressing, like, because it's, at the end of the day, they can say whatever they want, right, with no real impact, really. Like, you could hide them from the channel. But if we say something, it's going to be quoted, it's going to be screenshotted, it's going to be used as like evidence against them. So they can call me all things under the sun, but I can't say a damn thing to them. So recently, a prime example of that would be in the Vieira videos. I showed people's comments that I was reacting to in that video. I was like, this is the sort of stuff I have to deal with. And I didn't blur out their names. And I refused to blur out the person's name on that comment.
It's in a public video. Too bad.
Yeah. I had tons of people telling me that was wrong and that I was like
putting them on blast.
People, but at the end of the day, you've posted in a public place. I'm not allowed to react to you in the same way that you've just sent me a death threat or whatever, right? Not that I'd want to anyway, but I can't say anything to you. So I'm going to show you for what you are. Maybe you'll think twice about it. I don't know. The anonymity thing is, it gets worse with the bigger you get on these platforms. Yeah. So I have no idea what it would be on his scale.
I'm curious, like, what was your opinion on the Vieira that was so... Like, I don't know if you want to get into it. I'm just like genuinely curious because I didn't watch the video.
So my opinion at the time was it was based on the announcement of Vieira and the male Vieira in particular. Yeah. And I said, oh, we're getting male Vieira. That's how I said it. Because at the start, when there was a character buckling up gear, I was like, oh, are we getting hats for our Vieira finally? That's what I said. And then I was like, oh, it's male Vieira. I wasn't exactly best impressed. Then I elaborated that in a video because people were like saying that I'm not allowed to have opinions on them. So I made an opinionated video and said it'd be nice if we could have fixes to the two races that have just got added prior to adding any variations of them, because it would save them time in the long run. And I personally don't agree with the disparity between races. I think that every single race that you press create character on should have the advantage of customization of basic things like everyone else. They should have some differences, like Aura get horn options, Mikote get ear options and tail options. A Haya doesn't get that, right? But they get facial options that are different, or marks, or different tattoos and things. So why when they release this, do we suddenly have this limitation of, oh yeah, well you've got 4 different hairstyles. You can't add any new hairstyle that ever drops for you in the entire game because they won't work for your character. You're just going to have to sell them if you play a Vieira. And why do Hrothgar have to spend £5 or your regional equivalent on a Fantasia to change your hairstyle? And that was my opinion, and it got me absolutely blasted. People hated on it. People were spinning it. They were spamming and messaging me. They was mentioning me on Twitter. People were making parody videos based on it. I'm not even kidding.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not even kidding. That's how far this went. They were saying, "Oh, Meoni hates anything, and anything that's hates bunnies anyway. Your opinion's invalid. No one cares about you, Meoni." Then it escalated to the point where I was apparently transphobic because of this, and then then they brought in the gender thingy, right? All of that stuff that we're not going to get into, and I'm like, where did this all come from? All I did was I said it would be nice if we had like a level playing field, which is exactly what Andrew Copeland in Fusion X did in today's Gamer on June the 7th's Gamer Escape interview. He was like, "Is there any chances of leveling the playing field?" It's basically what I said, but I gave some detail to it. He asked that question. I've asked that in a video, but people just want to latch onto that. And they think that me questioning something in a video game for the betterment of that, which is obviously what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to critically give advice and feedback so that Square Enix can realize that this is high on some people's lists and that it doesn't make sense. And that the fact you have to spend money when other people don't to change your hairstyle when there are lots of hairstyles in the game and half of them can't be used anyway. It's a bad thing. We need to say when a game is doing a bad thing, or at least say that these are my opinions. I'm not saying that all Vieira are bad. I personally had to say on so many occasions, I like the idea of male Vieira. My disappointment was that it wasn't a trailer for the changes to them prior to this. And then at FanFest where they're like, "Oh, we're getting female Hrothgar," I was like, right. I'm fine with those additions. That's awesome. I'm happy for people who want to play them. But
there could have been development time to these other problems that these races currently have. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
But see, this is going a little bit back to the Asmongold situation. This is one of the potential problems that he'll have to deal with. Like, imagine Asmongold plays Final Fantasy XIV. And here's the thing. In my opinion, I don't think Final Fantasy XIV is going to be his cup of tea because Final Fantasy XIV is too story heavy, which is one of the first things that I talk about in the recent video that I did. Is like, I want to make sure you guys understand something. If you're going to play this game and you want to actually play through the story, like this isn't Chromie time. You're not going to be like, "Oh, now I want to go to the world of Zadnor. Now I want to go to Mists of Pandaria." It doesn't work like that. You're starting off in Realm Reborn, and then you're going to go to Heavensward, and then Stormblood, and only then Shadowbringers. And in between that, there is a lot of quests that are literally just you going up to a character, and those two characters are going to be talking, and you're going to listen, or your character is going to engage in the conversation, and there is no killing, no attacking in some of those quests at all. You still get rewarded for it. You get the money, you get the experience, all of that stuff. But it's a very different thing because with the Final Fantasy XIV team is okay with just telling a story. And that is where I think we will eventually lose Asmongold if he actually tries to play it because, he's not going to be sitting through no cutscene, reading off texts for half an hour. Like, just imagine the post Realm Reborn quests, right? It's a bunch of quests where you're just going from A to B.
Waking Sands. Yeah.
And there's almost no combat content in a lot of those quests, which it makes sense from a storytelling perspective because they're showing where the game is going politically and, politically in the world, like the politics of Eorzea and the backstabbing that goes on and all of that stuff. And I think that quests like that are going to lose him. Like, he's the kind of guy, like, give me a quest to go kill 10 bunnies or something, collect 10 bunny tails and bring him back. And that's cool. Because he can be doing that quest while reading his chat. He's not going to be able to appreciate the story of 14 while reading his chat at the same time. It doesn't work like that. Like even I had a ton of trouble because I actually read out loud every single main story quest that wasn't voice acted. I lost my voice a bunch of times. Yeah. There was one quest that I stopped reading. It was the Ivalis raids. I was like, nah, dude, I'm done. Like this is that's where they broke me. I was like, I'm done reading this out loud. Like I can read it for myself. You guys can read it if you want to. I'm done. I'm not reading this anymore. This is crazy.
It is a great thing you say though. Like Final Fantasy in comparison is more than happy to place a quest in the game with no reward at all and just have it there as a mandatory thing to go through to story build. And that's something that WoW doesn't really have.
No.
I don't know. Asmon enjoys the like reading some of the, I've seen him read some of the TVC quests and stuff. And, you know, a lot of the you know, especially as I've watched him play WoW Classic TVC recently, he's been reading quite a few of those, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I just think he should give it a go, personally. The more the merrier, in my opinion. You should just
try it, but I think that the community as a whole, like the Final Fantasy XIV community in particular, should be prepared for him just not liking it and not jumping down his throat over the fact that he doesn't like it. Like I think it's okay. I think it's okay if someone doesn't like Final Fantasy XIV. Like I like Final Fantasy XIV. I think it's okay if someone doesn't like it. That's fine. It doesn't affect me. Shouldn't affect anyone that actually likes the game. It's whatever. There's plenty of games that some people like and some people don't like. It's not going to be the end of the world. But unfortunately, we all know that it's going to be a big drama thing.
Like, I can see it now. I can see Asmon like looking at the glamour on a Lalafell. Like because I saw a guy the other day that was wearing the Moogle bottoms, make it look like a nappy. And this guy was completely naked apart from this nappy, and he called himself Nappy Lala. And he was just walking around in front of me on the stream. Now I found this hilarious. I can imagine Asmongold would find this hilarious too, but he'd probably be quite verbal about what he saw. And I can imagine some people would probably just, like, it would hit the fan very quickly. So yeah, there are examples of how that could go both ways. I would say though that people as a whole from all communities need to just get their heads out of their asses and just smile a bit more. There seems to be this huge focus on serious. It's like, have some
serious
fun.
Business. Like, listen, go play the Hildebrand quest, which I still haven't completed yet, but go play that quest. Go play that quest and see how seriously other people take Final Fantasy XIV, the developers themselves, you know?
I mean, there are even moments like that in the MSQ as well, where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Like the slapstick moments with, like Y'shtola, for example, Little Sun. You know, that was something no one expected to happen. Little bits and pieces here, little burns and memes and things. And I don't know. I think he should just play it and get it over with at this point and deal with it. And as a community, you say, like, people should be prepared. The community isn't prepared for somebody having a different opinion on a hairstyle, let alone anything else. So I think honestly, Asmongold should come and play it to death and say what he likes, because it would probably wake some people up a little bit to maybe, you know, having some critical opinions wasn't a bad idea overall, because, you know, it could be a lot different. People could be a lot more opinionated in the stuff that they put out on this game.
Yeah.
They really could.
So
can you imagine?
Yeah, I can imagine. Then they get death threats over it.
Yes, yeah.
So
dear.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the Fan Fest as well, because this was the first time that I ever watched a Fan Fest. And
right.
I was blown away. Like, I did not see, because I'd never watched one of the other ones, even just for reference. I was just like, okay, let's just go in and check this out. So I watched the keynote. The keynote felt, you know, fairly standard. Like, it was cool. Yoshi shows up dressed up as Reaper, confirms there's going to be a Reaper and all of that. There's some cool interactions with him and Koji. I think Koji is really, really cool. He's got really good sense of humor, and he really jams
he's
with
a genius.
Yoshi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was amazing. But then after I watched the keynote, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to watch I don't know how many, it was like over 20 hours of other stuff that they've done. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. I'm not going to be able to watch all this. But people are like, okay, so then you have to watch a couple of key moments here. And I'm curious, what was your favorite moment of the entire FanFest?
Yoshi P rocking back and forward with a Moogle and Chocobo mascot either side of him whilst the CEO talked about something. And I can't remember what he was talking about because I was just staring at him rocking back and forth. And he had the biggest smile on his face, and it was hilarious. That was my favorite moment.
I haven't seen that yet. That must have been funny as hell.
It made the best GIF in the universe. It single-handedly, I was like, I don't even know what's happening anymore, but this is hilarious. Like, they were talking about a collector's edition, and they didn't show off all of the bits properly, so they had to drag this thing out. But whilst he's waiting, there's just Yoshi P doing like essentially like the hum emote in the game. If you've seen it kind of looked like that, as this Chocobo and Moogle mascot that they must have been sweltering inside their suits, were just rocking back and forth dancing. And like he's just laughing his head off, and the camera's pointing at him instead of at the collector's edition stuff. And I'm just like, this is everything that I want from this. It's perfect moment in time. You know, he loves the job he does.
Yeah, I was surprised at the amount of like just meme acknowledgement that they did with the FanFest. So my favorite thing was Soken performing Lahi. I was just like, dude, this is the best thing. I had never even seen an automaton, so I had no idea what the hell it was. I was like, what the hell is that thing? And so he starts singing it, and he doesn't have the vocal range. And I'm just like, this is amazing that he actually did this. And then suddenly he starts playing the tune. He starts playing the tune with the automatons, and I was like, what? This is insane.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been to one FanFest, and it was Paris, before the whole pandemic thing happened. And he did exactly the same there, but he pretended he was a giant automaton, and he did the whole the Yanksha theme. So it was like ooh, ooh, like that, but he was doing it out of tune, as loud as he possibly could scream, with like his hand tilted above his head and his body swaying. And it was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I developed a pure love for that man since that day onwards. Not only do I love his music, but he's just such a positive existence, you know?
Yeah.
And especially, you know, one of the moments that I think everybody I know shed a tear on was, you know, the battle with cancer. And I do hope that stays in remission, because he's just a legend, you know, and people like him are one in a million, you know,
it's like
that characteristic.
You can see the passion that he has for the project, when he's just like, well, I'm just gonna keep on working while I'm fighting cancer in the hospital. Don't tell anyone, so that they keep sending me work and don't feel sorry for me, because you know, gotta deliver on this. And it was very inspiring, and just you could tell that it really costed. It was like, it was painful for Yoshi. Like Yoshi was just like losing it on just like whatever.
Well, because he was under a mental constraint of an oath to his friend. You know, that's the thing at the end of the day. You might see Halinka and the rest of them in Blizzard, but how many of them are really close friends like that? And that demonstrated a closeness which works so well in terms of developing on any project. It's like, you know, imagine working on a project with your best friend and it actually being really good, you know, as opposed if I was to work with my best friend on something, we'd just mess around and not get anything done. But they get stuff done, they're best of friends, and it looks like everybody in their immediate circle of programmers and writers and everything, like Ishikawa, etc., they're good at what they do because of the well-oiled machine that's present. And that's something Blizzard doesn't have anymore, because they let go far too many of the important people who were making that game good.
Yeah,
I've
even said, because I actually played World of Warcraft during Shadowlands. I went back because a friend of mine was playing it, and I wanted to kind of like reconnect with my friend, so I went back to play Shadowlands. It's an easy way to just like, hey, here's something that we're going to be doing together for a couple of nights. So I played Shadowlands, and I was so incredibly disappointed. because, after you go through the storytelling of 14, and I did a video where I said that I think the storytelling of Shadowlands is atrocious. It's terrible. It's not even mediocre. It's just bad. And people are like, what are you talking about? This is the best storytelling the game has had in years. And I'm just like, really? This is the best? This is so bad. Like, parts of the story were told out of order. The story beats were completely just like not there. It was a complete mess, in my opinion. Like, if you like it, you like it. It's whatever. I don't care. But I thought that the story in there was just terrible. And I kept thinking to myself, like, has a developer actually played through this? Like, there's literally portions of the story that you can't understand because you just go into this dungeon. Suddenly, this character is evil. This is one of the characters. This is a main character, by the way, like a really important character that is even in the trailers and whatnot. And suddenly, this character's evil. And then, like 2 weeks later, I get a quest that actually shows that character turning evil, and I'm just like, but I saw this character already being evil. And only now this character became evil in the story. This doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. This is insane. Like, who is telling this story? So, and beyond that, there were a bunch of other systems that I was just like, okay, look, you guys just don't play your game. Because if you played your game, you would know that these systems are stupid. It's like, you should be, you should have a player base that wants to play the game, not a player base that has to play the game. Like, one of the best things for me about 14 is that if I choose to, I can not play 14 for 2 weeks and not feel like crap.
Yeah.
And to actually feel good when
I
jump back into the game and I'm like, oh, wow, there's all these things that I can kind of like catch up on now and all these things that I can do. Whereas World of Warcraft's like, oh, you didn't play for like 2 weeks? Okay, you're about 2 weeks behind everybody else in the game now. Congratulations. And I'm just like, really? Like, it's like, I didn't have time to play. It's not my fault. Like, what do you mean? It just makes you feel bad if you don't play the game. It's like they're punishing you for not playing the game. Whereas 14, you're basically free to come and go. And that freedom is actually quite refreshing in an MMO. It's like, hey, I feel like capping my tomes this week. Maybe I don't feel like capping them next week. It's not a big deal. It's not like the items are going to go away. It's not like the activities that give you tomes are going to go away, with the exception of like the Moogle tomes and whatnot, the irregular ones. But that's a different like seasonal event. So it's whatever. But yeah, that stuff just feels good, which is something that I feel like World of Warcraft needs to get back in tune with. It's like, don't force your players to play the game. Make them want to play the game, not force them. Like, don't punish your players if they can't play for a week. That's dumb.
It all began with daily quests, didn't it? When those were first added to the game, and then when people were like, oh, we like daily quests, and then they added insane amounts of daily quests, and then, oh, we're going to cut back on daily quests, and then they were like, oh, world quests are a good idea.
Quests, yeah.
And then you ended up with like essentially 5 or 6 different things at current, as from what I've seen on people's streams anyway, because I haven't played all of Shadowlands to completion or whatever, not got to the max level. I couldn't bear it. I've got bored.
Yeah.
But there's like 5 or 6 things you have to do every single day to like have the same progress towards stuff because of the way that things are being like dripped out. I don't know.
Yeah, to give you an idea, the things that I liked doing in World of Warcraft were raiding and Mythic Plus. Those are the 2 things that I wanted to do. And I would spend maybe like 2 hours here and there doing those things. But in order to do those things, to stay up to date with my gear and my progression and all of that stuff, it required about 20 hours of grinding every week.
Jeez.
And I'm just like, this is not reasonable. Like, I don't know whose idea this was, but this is friggin' not reasonable. Like, what are you talking about? Like, friggin' hours upon hours of daily quests and grinding reputations and getting things for my conduit powers that are not going to matter in the next expansion, and all of these grindy things that you have to do to maintain your steady drip of progression is so bad that I was... When I eventually got to a point, I was like, listen, mate, I really want to play this game with you, but I can't. I don't want to be doing these things like going to the mall every day. I can't even mount in this place, and I have to friggin' walk everywhere. It's terrible. The experience is so bad that I was just like, I can't play this anymore. This is insane. It's a job. It basically becomes a job as opposed to something that you just go to play and have fun.
So what we have in comparison is World of Warcraft basically saying play every day, we're the best game in the universe. meanwhile not being the best game in the universe. And then Final Fantasy XIV's director and producer saying, don't play the game every day.
Yeah.
It's not, there are other games, and then it turns out to be a really positive experience that we conversely do spend more time playing. It's like reverse psychology that seems to work, isn't it, for 14?
His reverse psychology is like, no, guys, don't play. They're like, but we want to. No.
Don't do the relics. They're too grindy. We can understand. They even said like, oh, won't be for the faint of heart. Just don't do it. It's not really important. Blah 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 blah. What am I doing? 17 relics? Yeah. Okay.
Jesus Christ. So currently, let's talk about current Final Fantasy 14, and then we'll talk a little bit about the future. So what are you currently working on in patch 5.55?
17 relics to completion, which I've written down how much more I need to do if you're interested.
Go for it.
So I need to do another 18 runs of Anti-Tower. I need another 4 runs of Castrum Lacus Latore. Sounds good so far, right?
That's not
all
that
I
bad.
need to do for that, right?
Yeah.
I need to do 135 more runs of Delabrum Regine.
Why?
Because I'm going for all 17 weapons, and because you need 15 items per relic, per resistance weapon, and you also need 15 of the new one. So they actually give me a solid this time. What they've done is they've made it so that the new item called Raw Emotions drop 2 at a time, but they drop 2 at a time inside Delabrum Regine. So what I can do is effectively get 270 raw emotions for the price of 135 runs.
Well, but I mean, at least the Delabrum Regine, you can kind of just like queue for it. Whereas if you had to like grind Dalriada, I found that was a bit of a hassle because I keep jumping back into instances and see like, hey, what's the timer looking like? Hey, this one looks good. This one looks bad. There was this one night when I was looking for the final piece for my weapon, and I was like, this is insane, because I went through 7 different instances, and every time that I went in there, Dalriada was already running, and I was like, no, I just need to do one more run, please. I just need one more. But hey, I finished my first ever relic, because
Congratulations.
I told myself, like, listen, I'm not going to be grinding as many relics as everybody else is doing. But I started playing Final Fantasy XIV when Shadowbringers was the active expansion. So I want to have, for my main class, the Paladin, I want to have the relic weapon of Shadowbringers, and I need to finish it no matter what. And I did it. I finished my one relic weapon, and I'm not going to do any other ones. Like, forget about that. I'm not going to go through that. I'm curious though. Did you do previous relics as well? So like, do you have all the Realm Reborn relics, all of the Heavensward relics?
So this is kind of like a new form of addiction that I've landed myself in. For the Eureka weapons, I think I have 10 of those. So I don't have the full set.
How hard is the Eureka weapons to grind?
They're easy in comparison to this one. If
really?
I was to make it a comparison, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
I think aesthetically, my favorite Paladin relic is actually Heavensward, and not even the final form. I want the fire one. The fire one, I think, looks friggin' gorgeous.
It does. The Heavensward relics and the Realm Reborn ones are just amazing. I think one of the most painful relics for me was the first one. Like the Realm Reborn one, that drove me insane, especially with the guild costs as well at the time, and the rest of it. It was just painful.
What was the worst step of the Realm Reborn relic? It's the books, isn't it?
Okay, it's the books. Yeah, okay. I was gonna say because you have like the Book of Skyfire, and it was like, okay, go kill 2 Amalja archers. You'll know exactly what I'm on about if you're on it. I actually I did the first Book of Skyfire, I think. Right, so kill 2 Amalja archers. So you go to Fanalan, you go just south of Little Alamigo, right, in the Segoli Desert, right, and you've got the Amalja encampment, and there's archers there, but they're like a different form of Amalja archer that doesn't have the relic symbol on the head. Because if you guys don't know that are watching, when you do those weapons, when there's a mob to kill, it has a symbol on it to indicate which one you need to kill. So I'm like, where is this thing? And then you learn that like there are different mobs with exactly the same name spread about the entire area. So you have to hunt these down. And then you learn that some are rarer than the others to spawn and they've just been killed. You wouldn't see them. And then, yeah, the whole thing with that, though, wasn't necessarily that part of it. It was the fact that when you go to your next book, you could be going back to the Zagoli Desert for something completely different that was stood next to it an hour ago. And now you have to go and kill 3 of that guy that you were killing before, where you were killing incorrectly because it was the other guy. So you have to go back there for that book. And then you go through all of these. You go through all these books and you're like, I want to eat my hair right now. This is horrible. And then the fate spawns as well are pretty awful. Yeah, it's a pretty awful relic, honestly, to farm for.
Yeah, so that's pretty much when I stopped, because I remember people talking about, oh my god, the drop rates on these fates, they're so bad. And I did it when there was the yokai fate event. So I was like, oh dude, this is fine. I don't know what people were talking about. This is great. Look at how fast these events are going, because there's like tons of people running fate. So I just go in there, like do 1 AoE, and I'm like, this is good. I'm getting my rewards. And then I'm done with the fates, and I'm like, well, I guess I did the hard part. And then it's like I see the books, and I'm like, wait, what? 12 books, or however many there were. And it's like, in one book is all of these things. You guys are crazy. I quit. I freaking quit.
Yeah, so each book for people watching it has like kill X amount of these mobs in these different zones. Like I say, for each book, you end up going to the same zones repeatedly. Then it's to do like a run of like 3 or 4 dungeons that are named, which isn't too bad. And then also in there, you've got fates in there as well in the books, like named fate that you have to do. And you have to do that for 12 books in total. So you've got...
Then, wait. You're forgetting one. Then there's also the Grand Company leave quests, which aren't always there. So you have to like... You have to get lucky when you get to the NPC that gives you the lev quest, because if it's not there, then you have to take another quest. And I don't remember if you can cancel it and reset the list, or if you have to actually complete it to reset and get until you get the lev quest that you want. Jesus. I was so confused with some of those. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, you have to complete it for the list to refresh with new things. You can't abandon it, otherwise it'll just pop back on the list. Believe me, I tried. Oh dear. But then obviously you've got tough parts of each relic, right? The Heavensward one was just like the abysmal drop rate on anima, right? The crystals, the atma thingies, the yellow, blue, red, green, all those things. Those were awful.
I even already have some of those. It's just, the thing was, I wanted to do the Heavensward one so that it would then connect with the Realm Reborn one, so that it would connect with the Heavensward one, because those quests are connected. Now it's like, oh, I'll just keep going all the way. I actually thought they connected all the way into like Stormblood as well, but people have told me recently they don't. And I was like, oh.
No, Stormblood's based on Eureka. It's basically just spending hours. Yeah, and Eureka does not have very much future-proofing. It's one of my biggest complaints. It's also had me in trouble before, because of like, can you please future-proof this content if you're going to add more of it in the future? Like it's impossible to get groups. Oh, Meoni, actually, I'm on this server. There's plenty of people in Eureka.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course there are, dude. Like, exactly, for 8 hours a day. Oh, of course they are. Of course they are.
That's the same thing that whenever I was trying to figure out how the tombstone system worked for, like, augmenting gear, and everybody in my chat was making fun of me for not understanding it, and they were going like, dude, it's so obvious. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, you go talk to this guy, but then this guy does not have the item. You have to go talk to this other guy, but then this guy has the item, but you have to talk to this other guy to get the special token to buy 10 of these, and then you exchange them for one of these, and then you go over there, and then you can finally try. And oh, you bought the wrong thing. You messed everything up. Good job. You wasted your resources. Like, that's kind of like, they I feel like that is one of the things they could overhaul, is that system, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And another thing that I really feel like they should do, like you're talking about potentially reworking Eureka and whatnot to future-proof it. I think even more important than that is coils. Because, like, I think it kind of sucks for a brand new player. Yeah, a brand new player that is coming into Realm Reborn, and they're not going to be able to do coils. And my advice to people was like, listen, if you get to the end of Realm Reborn and you don't have like a friend that can burn you through coils real fast, unsynced, then just go to YouTube and watch the video. Because people should see that the story payback of, what happens between the first trailer of the game and what actually happens as your characters get sent to the future and all that. So, yeah, I think that is a big moment that they should find some kind of a workaround to get people to do coils so that they can experience that moment in the game. I think that should actually be a high priority.
It's one of their biggest regrets that I've seen on many of the interviews that they've had over the past few years. They've been asked that numerous times, and they're like, we really, really regret ever including the main storyline, like parts of that, like such big truth bombs with main storyline characters into a raid. And we'll never do it again. Which is why they've done, like, Eden is a completely offshoot
it's a separate
thing.
Story, yeah.
And everything is now an offshoot. But I honestly think they'll never go back to including a storyline in an 8-man that's main story, including with Pandemonium.
Yeah, and they don't have to, but I just wish they'd still fix coils. Just fix coils for the newcomers, especially now. I think is very important because with all these World of Warcraft creators talking about it and people checking it out, because I'm actually a little bit insulted due to the fact that I constantly told a lot of people, hey, you guys should check out 14 because this is really fun. And people are like, oh, no, I'm just going to play WoW. And now that all these other content creators are like coming into 14, they're like, I see a lot of my friends suddenly talking about 14. And I'm like, I told you about this. What do you mean? Like all of a sudden, it's like, come on, what the hell? Not putting too much I in influencer over here, basically.
Definitely, if you've never seen that stuff, and you need to see it because it's a truth bomb.
Yeah,
and it's one that if you don't watch, you'll be like, what?
Yeah,
you'll never understand what happened.
You're gonna miss out on very important parts of the story if you don't see what happened in Coils of Bahamut, which that's one of the reasons I wish they'd fix it. But regarding some of the stuff that was added with 5.5, what do you think of Zadnor as a zone?
I prefer it over Bozja.
Really?
I feel that it's a much more streamlined experience. The fates, the skirmishes are much more prevalent. The problem is that critical engagements in the third zone need to be tuned up. There need to be more of those if they're expecting people to do 30 loathsome crystals in that area, because that was just painful. It was faster to do Eden back to back. I actually really enjoyed the concept of it. It's just a dirty battlefield, but it actually had some variety to it. It wasn't just trenches as far as you could see with mud. It was like, there's little floaty rocks. There was some bits here and there. I also thought they added a lot more characteristics, specifically to the sort of people you're fighting in the Fates. I thought some of them were great. I mean, we had Pagaga, for example, a little Lalafell, that little so-and-so, quite lovable, really, actually. I mean, introducing an emote that everybody now wants with, going there with her face. Everybody wants that for their Lalafell now. I don't know. I enjoyed it overall. I think that it was incredibly easy and fast to level, though. I think that when they said, it would go up to rank 25, I was like, oh, well, there goes a week of my time. I'm like, wow, it took me a day.
Yeah, it was fairly fast. But
it was like 2 days maximum?
I don't know. It wasn't that long for me either, but I actually didn't like Zadnor as much as I liked Bozja.
Really?
Because, yeah, I thought that Zadnor was too big. And it caused you to be too spread out. At least for me, I definitely felt that. It caused the stuff to be too spread out. And so, for instance, to give you an idea, I barely did any critical engagements in the second zone because while I was there, they barely ever spawned. And in the third zone, it was even worse. Like, I might have done total for all the time that I spent there, which might have been, I don't know, maybe 20 hours, something like that. Because, I was doing it more to get the Dalriada, and I wanted to do everything for the relic weapon there, but I gave up because this is insane. There's no way. Like a lot of times, particularly if you get into one that's already like established and there's a group just like zerging the skirmishes, a lot of times I found that it was hard for me to even get there in time because they're so far away. And I bought the maps to ride faster.
Oh, you have the maps?
Yeah. So it just felt like it was so slow to get anywhere that I had a really tough time with that one. Which is why I ended up just going after like whatever raids they were. I think it was it Heaven's Word for the second zone, or was it Stormblood? I don't remember. It was one of those. I think it was Stormblood. Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, though, because I think that inherently that's a problem of not only the size of the instance, but more actually leaning closer to the fact that the fates themselves, the skirmishes and stuff, don't have enough health.
Yeah.
You can destroy them so ridiculously quickly. Like, you only need like 3 people, and some of those fates I couldn't get a hit on with my healer. I had to switch to summoner at the time to actually dot something quickly as fast as possible so I could actually hit on it to get credit, because I was just charging up a cast and it's done. You know, I'd have to like run around swift casting, you know, and using the lost actions to try and bridge the gap, which are a lot of fun. The new ones are amazing, by the way, but
I'm very basic when it comes to that. I just still use Lost Protect and Lost Shell. I just run around Lost Protect, Lost Shell, not even worry too much about it. I have a ton of the new actions, but I'm always concerned because I have that hoarder mentality where it's like, well, I might need this sometime, so I better never use it.
Yeah, that's understandable. That is understandable. Like, at the end of the day, it's not for everyone, and it is purely optional. At the end of the day, what you choose.
No, but it's personally, like I did like it as a zone, like the overall theme and whatnot, and the story that takes place in there. Just like I liked Bozja, I just felt that Zadnor specifically, it felt too big, and the skirmishes were too far apart. So I was constantly just like running all over the map and barely ever getting attacks in. I thought that was a little bit annoying.
Yeah, I don't know. You see, I'm biased because I like Eureka. It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome for me personally, because I hated Pagos when it first came out, and now I love it. And Eureka Pagos, you would hate. I don't know if you've even been there.
I haven't been to Pagos yet. No.
Right. So Pagos, you will absolutely hate just basically by saying that you dislike Zadnor's layout. You will hate Pagos because of the layout of where the fates are and in between them, the fact that you have to walk physically past a dragon, otherwise it instantly kills you, but slows you down in the midsection, and lots of the fates are down there. But the fact that the teleport crystals are, the aetherites are so spread apart, that's been negated a bit because they've basically removed the level restriction on those, but they used to have level requirements to teleport between them.
Jesus.
It's also shaped a bit like a snake, so it's not got 2 entrances to each area, and there are places you can go where it looks like you're next to a fate, but it's actually at the top of a cliff, and the only way to get on top of said cliff is to go all the way around the map and then up and then to the right, if that makes sense. So you're going to hate that. You are literally going to hate that.
Good. I can't wait. So I actually do want to dive a little bit into spoiler territory. I feel like most people that kind of want to go through Bozja and Zadnor and whatnot. But this is because I honestly didn't really realize what it was, and I'm sure that you have your finger on the pulse a lot more when it comes to this. But Zadnor had a choice in the story, and I just kind of like want confirmation that I got that right. And the choice was when they ask you whether or not you should kill
Shank her or not.
Yeah, the what's her name again? I forget her name. I'm terrible with names.
Messiah.
Yeah, Messiah. If you want to kill Messiah, or if you wanted to hold, to actually have a trial, and you make that choice, but there doesn't really seem to be a consequence.
There isn't. It's exactly the same thing that happens regardless of what you choose. You just end up with a different dialogue box. If you choose to stab her, Balesian or whatever his name is, or is it Marsak? I call him Ballsack. In a weird way. That's faster for me. When Ballsack's like, he texts, he's like, no, if it's anyone, it should be me, and he plunges it in. If you say that she should be held to trial, he stands in and is like, no, it ends here and now, and then stabs her anyway. So there is no choice. It's just whether or not you wanted to speak and ask if you could stab her or not, basically. That was it.
I was hoping for something a little bit more. Like I. Because it was almost like, due to the fact that she then kind of like comes back and helps everybody or whatever. I thought that they were trying to like guilt you. It's like, yeah, I thought they were trying to guilt you into being like, oh, see, you wanted to kill her, and now she came in here and she's helping everybody. And I chose she should hold trial, if I remember correctly. I think I chose she should hold trial. And I was like, see, I was right, because she showed up and she helped everybody, and whatnot. But yeah, I just think it's weird because they even announced it in the live letter, right, as this big thing. There's going to be a decision. And then I was like, okay, I need to figure out what this was, because I didn't really get the impact of this big decision that I made, but okay.
Just a stabbing, basically. I didn't expect it to be that grim, because this is Final Fantasy. I was like, oh, all right, well, no, if I choose to want to stab her, which I wanted to do, I was expecting Ballsack to be like, no one's stabbing today. No one is. We'll hold a trial and everything, but no, he just plunges it in and
boom, done.
Job's a good one. It's like, okay. The biggest disappointment to me, though, Ruri, was the bloody the cutscene at the end. If we can talk about that,
yeah, sure.
With the whole, okay, so I don't know if you know this, but you know how it alludes to the fact that in the future we might be going to Dalmasca, right? You get that sort of impression. Apart from the fact in the field notes for Gabranth, it specifies that Gabranth was killed by Leon days from this all happening in his deathbed because he's ill, and he stabbed him after basically Gabranth blaming him and Menenius, the guy that you fought in Delabrum, for the whole messed up operation. And tries to imprison Leon. So Leon breaks free from his bonds and then goes into his bedchamber of Gabranth and kills him with a dagger, then proceeds to blow up the entire castrum, killing everybody, all of these characters that you thought were going to be like bad guys, then absconds with the little Lalafell, Pagaga, who are like best buddies, basically the beast tamers, and then goes off into the distance, is never heard of ever again. So the prospect is, there are two characters that are, well, one of the biggest characters that's missing is that Sicinian, which is the Legion scientist who uncovered two artifacts, apparently.
Yeah. He also shows up in that final cutscene as well, right? He's the one with like the etheric glasses, yeah.
Yeah, he flees as well after everything is just destroyed. It says in that field note. I mean, I could read a bit if you're interested. I don't want to like drag this on into like a lore thing, but it really peed me off, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I don't know. Are you interested?
So they alluded that you were going to go to Dalmasca, but at the end of the day, they blew everything up, and you're not going to go there.
Yeah. It's like, instead of including that in a cutscene, it was just like, go get the field note number 50 and read it. It's like, really?
Oh yeah, that's never good.
So they ended the Return to Ivalice storyline essentially with a field note.
Ugh, that never feels good. You think that could have been maybe due to COVID? Because
possibly.
They had limitations and they couldn't like work it into a cutscene or something like that. But it definitely feels bad. I don't pay as much attention to those lore things, but yeah, if I was super into it, that would suck. But go ahead.
Small quote. Beast King Leon, taking extreme umbrage at being held responsible for the Fourth's defeat, plotted mutiny against the selfsame leader to whom he once swore undying loyalty. Escaping his jail cell with the help of co-conspirators, he snuck into the chamber where Gabranth lay wounded in the dead of night. After an exchange of words, it was clear the legator's mind was made up. He succumbed to his subordinate's blade with no resistance. The deed done, Leon set Castrum Valnani ablaze and fled the scene to destinations unknown.
Maybe we'll see Leon again. I always wanted to have like a one-handed axe, but they never give you that chance. People told me that the weapons that he uses are actually like warrior weapons, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, I want a one-handed axe.
So maybe Beast Tamer will just be added at some point with Leon. It'd be hilarious if they added like a mass carnival for it and added it as a limited job. with Leon as the trainer. I think people would probably get angry at that, but I think that would be hilarious, quite honestly. But yeah, to end that entire epic storyline in a field note, to me, regardless of the situation, just stinks. They could have just been like, sucks. To be continued in 6.4 or something, but no.
I mean, but the thing is, they want a clean break for 6.1. They want that clean break.
Well, they're introducing Garlemald as an actual place, so wouldn't it make sense to have characters like Gabranth at the heart of this as a boss that they can kill there?
Yeah.
Killing Gabranth early doesn't solve any of those problems. It just means that you've got to create new characters that we've never heard of before to stand in that place. Think of it, like if you had a 4-man dungeon.
6.1 is not going to be Endwalker. It's going to be a new story, a brand new story with different characters, I would assume. That's what I mean with a clean break.
You've still got but the stories will be placed within that world. It's not just going to be on the moon.
Who knows?
You don't I personally don't think they're going to add
maybe the source explodes.
The source explodes. I can see it now. We're just going to live on the moon.
It's too filled with ashen juice, and it explodes.
They're just going to create new Gridania on the dark side of the moon.
No tree hugger cities. No. Just Limsa. Just Limsa and Ul'dah. No tree hugger.
The trees grow in a vacuum? Probably not.
I highly doubt it. So, what about the new raid that we got, Dalriada? How'd you feel about that one? Which one do you like more, that or the Lubrum?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Done too many of everything now.
I personally, I'll answer while you're thinking about it. I personally like the Lubrum more. I thought the Lubrum also has more bosses, if I remember correctly, but I really did enjoy the mechanic where you have to sync up with other players, even though it's very frustrating for me because I can never really help properly in that moment because I play on a PlayStation 5 with a controller. So it's like, it's not easy for me to type left and right while I'm tanking and doing other things. So it's like, I wish that I would have more space to just have a keyboard attached to my PS5 the whole time so that I could help with that. But I thought that was a really cool mechanic with people calling out safe spots and whatnot. Yeah. But I still like the Lubrum more. I thought the Lubrum was more interesting. But I like the final theme of Dalriada way more than
Assault on the Harrier, I think it's called.
Yeah, that was friggin' amazing. I loved it. And I actually did not like the Lubrum, the rendition of the Bozjan theme on the Lubrum at all. The final one when you're fighting the Queen, I was like, nah, this one doesn't do it for me. It's all distorted and stuff. But the new one with guitars and just like, oh, this one's good. I like it.
It sounded like Soken could have easily recorded that in a bed. You know, like it was raw, it was passion, it was just, we're not putting a million filters on this. You're just having raw guitar sound with some backing. And it was beautiful. And I love the orchestra, and we've got it on in the FC at the moment on repeat. And it's just, I can't get bored of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of dungeons, I'd probably have to side with you with Delabrum. I prefer having more bosses, I think, through there. But it's not as it's about the same sort of speed through there anyway. I'd rather have more bosses than gimmicks, personally. Like the start of going up or down. I mean, I've done the up. I don't know if you've done up in...
I've done up in Dalriada as well.
It's ridiculously easy.
There was this one time because everybody was downstairs and suddenly people were like, there's nobody up. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to go up for the first time. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is way easier than downstairs. I don't know.
It is.
So
downstairs,
now I understand.
You can die. Upstairs, you'd have to be a sausage to die upstairs. It's so easy, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was... now I finally understood why the first times I went through Dalriada, there was always like a pre-made group that would say, hey, there's 8 of us, we're going upstairs. And I'm just like, now I'm like,
because they don't want to do it.
Yeah, you are, you bunch of slackers. Go on then. Go upstairs. Downstairs is way harder. Especially dealing with the fish things are so annoying.
all the black mages are just queuing up there like, yes, we would like to stand still. Let's go upstairs.
Let's go upstairs. Well, we don't have to move at all. But,
yeah, it's the black mage room.
But still, I thought Dalriada was pretty cool overall. I dig these types of raids. Now, Dalriada does not have a savage version, unlike the Lubrum. So
thankfully,
it feels a little bit on the easier side. But I still have troubles with the prison attack of the final boss because of how wide the area of effect
the door
is.
things.
Yeah, it's
like, where the
very
ball goes
wide.
through the doors.
Yeah,
I have trouble with that because I'm like, okay, you just have to. You need to zoom out further than you can zoom in the game. I think it's really like I'm spinning my camera. I'm like, I'm just getting hit by at least one of these, and I'm just like, yeah, I expected that to happen. Most of the mechanics are fairly straightforward. They're a bit quick acting actually in there. I'm surprised,
which is good.
That ball mechanic, yeah, it is good. But the ball mechanic was just like, I guess I'm dead then. You know.
Yeah, there were several times that I'm just like, well, I guess I'm gonna die. Goodbye, cruel world. See you later.
Ah, dear. But overall, I thought Dalriada was a great addition to the game, and I'm glad that it didn't have a savage, because if they had added a savage, that means I would have had to do that to get the diable versions of the Final Fantasy XII stuff, the armor that they added to the new instance.
I didn't like the new armor. I was like, no.
That's probably the only reason I liked bits of it is because of characters from 12 wearing it.
Yeah.
Right? Nostalgia. That's what they were buying into. But it still annoys me, some of it. So
it's like I like big plate and cloaks. Big plate and cloaks for my big paladin boy.
So you're like me then. You hope one day that we get like judge armor for our like tanks, like proper judge armor, or like Nero Tolscava's out there, like with the helmet and the big hammer. That's what we need.
Nero's would be amazing. Not the helmet, because I don't use the helmet. I always use the I think it's called the Anemos cap, whatever. It's like looks like a cowboy hat, because that kind of goes very well. It looks like the hat that I have in real life. So I'm just like, I'm always gonna have this one. so that my headpiece is always defined. The rest of the armor shifts around, but the headpiece is always the same.
That's one of the things I've missed from World of Warcraft. If I was to quantify one item that I've missed from WoW above anything else, it would be shoulders.
Shoulders. Shoulder pads.
Like big shoulders, big bulky armor. Like plate mail in WoW for the most part is made plate mail because of the size of those pauldrons. They're just ridiculous.
Were you around when they nerfed the orc shoulders and people lost it?
Oh yeah, quite rightfully so. Like
I laughed so hard. I was like, "Look at the size of your shoulders; they're so small."
Yeah,
people would lose their minds over how small the shoulders were on the orcs.
Give me like tier 6, on a tank any day.
Yeah.
Compared to any of the new stuff they've come out since as well. But I do miss those big, like you've got like 40 pounds worth of metal on your shoulders. You're a man, I don't know what kind of weight you'd have to pull for that, but
you can get there with some of the armors. Like the one of the armors that I used for a while there was Law's Order. Law's Order's got some decent shoulders. They look like castles on your shoulders.
I love the Law's Order stuff, because it's based on judge gear. But for the most part, I think we fall into the do we call it the Asian themed end game of less is more sort of thing when it comes to a lot of gear.
Yeah, I got like a piece of armor. I don't remember from where from. I think it was one of the boxes in Zadnor. It looks like a hoodie. It just looks like a hoodie. I'm pretty sure that if I was in a bigger server and instead of being on Spriggan, I'm pretty sure that thing would be worth a big penny. Like it's just like it's a vest type thing with a hoodie, and it doesn't have any sleeves on it or anything. And I'm just like, this looks stylish as hell. I bet people would pay a pretty penny for this in other servers.
No, you'd think that, but if it drops from a chest, then its value is already minimal.
Oh,
that's the thing, because that's more easily obtainable. If it was exclusive just to a weaver, then you'd be looking at paying like 40-50 million on the first few weeks.
I still remember that one time that I got that tentacle pet that was worth like $1 million, and I was like, "Oh man, wish I'd get more."
Oh,
pets
calamari!
Like yeah,
yes.
I sold that. I sold it straight up. I was like, "This is worth $1 million? You crazy?" I'm selling that straight.
That's because the drop rate is abysmal on that. Scarily hard to get from Hullbreaker.
I was super lucky. It was the first time I was there. Boom.
Oh my, I don't even know what to, as a minion collector, I am shaking my head at you, sir.
I just went in there because I had never done Hullbreaker, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to check this off the list. Go in there, unsync, murder everything, get the final boss. Oh, it's this thing. Looks like a tentacle. Oh, let me check the price before I use it. Check the price. Oh, this is worth $1 million. Okay.
You need to buy some scratch cards or something, or have a go on the lottery with that kind of luck. Jeez, the amount of runs of that I've done, I don't even know.
Damn.
Oh.
Yeah. Then again, look, I've ran a level 60 dungeon. I don't know, I must have ran it like over 50 times by now because I wanted to get the filibuster armor set, the chest piece, and I've never gotten it. So there you go.
Yeah, filibuster set's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Very like World War II as well.
Yeah, I wanted that for like a Lalafell when I was playing Gunbreaker. Like, I'm like, this is going to be the best thing ever for a Gunbreaker Lalafell, dude. Going to look like a torn down engineer. It's going to be so good. But yeah, I never got it. So I wanted to ask you about something else, which is I got this feeling with the 5.55 being divided into 2 patches. I felt like the second part of MSQ was incredibly short, almost to the point where I was like, I would have preferred it if they had just done like 1 patch for the Zadnor stuff and then 1 patch for the MSQ stuff. I think that would have made more sense. But what do you think?
It was short, but I'm used to this sort of length. It's happened like this in the past. I would say, though, that the storyline itself irritated me more than the content that was actually provided anyway. If we're still on spoiler territory.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Guys, there's going to be spoilers. I warned you already, so just be aware. If you've made it this far, now we're really... Because like Zadnor is pretty mild spoilers. Now we're really going to talk about spoilers. So you probably want to hop off at this point. And I don't know for how long we're going to be going anyway. So this is going to be just like, this is your final warning. So if you don't want to get spoiled on story stuff from 5.55, last warning, go.
Right. So the thing that annoyed me about this was just reactions and the pacing of that storyline. I felt that the pace was all over the place. It was kind of like, we need to do this now, but then we've got all this other stuff. The whole thing where he tried to use the Cartano flats to basically cause, like an explosion or whatever of the ether to redirect a current. Interesting storyline, but it was over very quickly. It was given up on very quickly. It was very almost cliche bad guy. Oh, I would have got away with it. It wasn't for the the pesky
the Warriors
kids.
of Light. Oh,
yeah, and then runs away. It's like, Van Daniel, come on now. You're the only sort of main connection we have to a bad guy in a minute. And even though you're in the skin of Asahi Sas Brutus, which is annoying as it is anyway, like, come on.
I love Asahi. I thought Asahi was an awesome character.
Yeah, but he was an awesome character, but I hated him with all my fiber, and I think that was brilliant story writing on that part.
Exactly.
But see him back again, it's just like, oh no. Oh, stay dead, please. Even though it's not him. But I felt that the pacing was all over the place. The fights were surprisingly interesting to me.
Yeah.
Especially considering it threw you into the role of classes or roles that not everyone will have played a healer and not everyone would have played a DPS. So it was kind of interesting.
Listen, you think that's bad? Let me tell you something. And this is like a huge criticism that I have of 14, even though I don't talk about it that much. But it is one thing that really, really bothers me. And that is whenever you have to do a duty as a healer on a controller, it is terrible. It is really bad. Because like, how when you're in a party finder, I can just press down on the D-pad to select people. When you're in a duty, you can't do that. So I basically have to run up to the person I want to heal. I have to run up to them and then hope that the closest target thing triggers properly so that I can target them and heal them. And it is so infuriating because it's like, why can't I just cycle through the people in my party like if this was a party finder thing? Because I'm assuming on PC, you click on it, you heal them, and it's whatever. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah, on a controller, Like, it's terrible. I hate that. It's very, very bad.
That sounds horrible, actually.
Yeah.
I can imagine that being really adding challenge to an already tight window. I was surprised, actually, because I wiped on, which one did I wipe on? I think it was the last one. I was like, I was getting cocky, and I'm like, why am I dead? I was like, oh, there's a window, and I'm obviously playing as a healer. I'm like, okay, you really do actually have to.
Yeah.
Yoshi P's like, yeah, forget what we said before, boys. You're gonna have to DPS as healers. I was like, okay, confirmed. DPS required as healer. Can people remember that for the runs in the future, please? That's what I was thinking. I was surprised at the difficulty curve. Surprising. It wasn't ultimately difficult.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I
it
wiped
was
on
enough
one of
to
them as
surprise
well.
someone. Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to say that. It took me by surprise more than anything. I was expecting just to sit there, looking out the window, watch them doing this easy fight. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I've had lots of people in the comments of my playthrough going, I'm still stuck on that now. So I'm like, oh no. People are like, I didn't play this game to play a healer. Why is it forcing me to play this? I'm like, oh,
see, that's the advantage of playing multiple classes, is because, I've played one of each role at least, and I've actually done all of the role quests now in Shadowbringers. Nice. So I leveled up.
New Void quests.
Yeah, the new Void quests. I thought that was fun, and
it was.
Through that, I learned kind of like the basics of each of the classes, so that when I had to do this, I was like, oh, this is cool. And another interesting thing was that when you play as, I think you play as Rurikhan at one point, and it's like, his spells are very different than the Astro spells. I was wondering if that was like a hint at what could be coming, because obviously Astro is going to have to receive a rework for... For Endwalker.
It felt like an amalgamation of PvP Astrologian with a bit of PvE in it. It was like, what's this weird simplification of the card structure? What's this? So yeah, I also felt that as well. Like, this could be a sniff of what's to come in the full meal, so to speak. Yeah, for certain. I had the same feeling. But it threw me off, because I was like, wait, that's not the right thing. Yeah,
exactly. Me too. Because like, I actually play Astro, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What is going on here? So, yeah.
Like, how did this card, what's going on here? And then when I figured out that I'm playing something that's not an Astrologian, and it's just looks like one, then it was easier for me to swallow. But there's a lot of people that left me comments saying I'm stuck on this, and why did they forsake people who don't want to play healers? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say at this point.
But see, that's the thing. I think there's a lot of people that actually play with a controller, and they probably never did a healer. Well, I mean, I guess you would have to do a couple of healer quests along the way, like when you play with Alphano and whatnot during some of the Shadowbringer stuff. Or is it Stormblood? No, I think it's Stormblood, right? Yeah, it was
Stormblood. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very frustrating, particularly because like I told you have to select targets, and there's that one point where you have to heal the ether thing as well. So you have to be swapping targets between Graha's tanking, if I'm not mistaken, and the thing in the middle that is also taking damage, and I'm basically running up to Graha to select them as a target, then running up to the thing in the middle to select it as a target. I was like, I hate this. Just let me select things with my D-pad like I can do in dungeons.
They should have done it like the trust system and had them in your party. I think that would have been a bit nicer.
No, I actually disagree. I really like the way that they did it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's like, the healer part is frustrating, but that's a mechanical thing. Because, it's a mechanical me playing as a controller. Maybe if I spend some time messing around with the controller targeting filters and whatnot, maybe I could have gotten better results, but I never bothered. Because, messing with targeting filters is like, look, these are working great for like 90% of the game. I don't want to ruin that. It's hard enough to target things with a controller as is. I don't want to mess anything up, okay? I struggle enough. So, yeah, but... Besides that, I just like the fact that you actually played as the different characters, and I think a lot of players have grown a lot more fond of Graha than when we did the Crystal Tower through the events of Shadowbringers. So
yeah, he's definitely become. I think it's a typical example of story writing working again perfectly. It's this character I really don't care about. This character I don't care about. Okay, now I care about him. Yeah. It's like that's literally how it works for most of these guys now in the Scions, especially. In terms of the storyline, the thing that really bugged me was the ending, because I knew that I was never going to get enough from that ending, regardless of what it was going to be, apart from the shortness of it. But the one thing that bugged me that I hope you also have noticed is that final bit where the moon is suddenly glowing in the sky ominously. And I'm like, oh, and then all they do is they look at it with no expressions. And that's the end of the quest.
Yeah.
I was furious. I was like, Y'shtola, say something, somebody, wink, nudge, I don't know, grimace, like go, oh gods, or oh for 12 or something, but not a word, not an expression, just looking at the moon. That was the worst segue to moon I have ever imagined that they would do. Yeah. And I really hope that the intro to Endwalker isn't just, oh yeah, you know that moon that we were looking at, we're going there now. It's like, no. Why? How?
There needs to be a justification for it. It can't just be like, oh yeah, the moon was glowing, we should see what that's about. It's like,
yeah,
what?
Exactly. I was expecting it to be, oh, well, the moon's acting strange, let's investigate this. But no, it was...
It's just like, it's over. Yeah, I thought it ended way too fast as well. I was like, so that's it? Like, and then, what do you mean?
You talk to Tataru, and then she has some extra dialogue about not making an outfit at this time and stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right. What about the bloody moon? What's going on with that thing? Yeah. You know? I don't know. Hopefully they do a better job of introducing it than they did with ending this. That's my opinion, though. But.
They specifically said that Endwalker has like 30% more cinematics even, or something like that. I seem to remember them saying that at some point. So
I can believe that, yeah. I mean, Shadowbringers was already crazy amounts of cutscenes. I loved it.
I'm just hoping there's more voice acting and less quests without voice acting, because I'm going to have to read those on stream, and then I'm not going to have a voice anymore. So please, Square. Please, Yoshi.
Do you give them different voices as well?
I try. Like
I've
for
tried
instance,
as well.
When I did the dwarven quest line in the first, I was always speaking like this. You see, laddie? Aye. I did my best to put on a dwarven accent, so that was fun. I love that quest line. That quest line was so good. The only crafter quest line I ever did. I leveled up a crafter just for that, nothing else.
It's like when we had what was it, Beck Lug in the thing, and I heard the voice actor on one of the cutscenes, and then it wasn't voiced. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm pinching my nose then. Oh, adventurer. That's how you get a Beck Lug, because for some reason they have a weird nasal condition. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
So imagine doing that through like an entire hour long. My nose hurt.
They're constantly what was I going to say? Oh yeah, they're constantly suffering from hay fever. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know the feeling right now.
Okay, so on the topic of Endwalker, you scored a collector's edition, didn't you?
I did.
Okay,
I was so happy.
I'm gonna need you to give me that statue, because Paladin is my main, so I think it's only fair. Because I didn't score a collector's edition. I just want the stat. I don't even want anything else, because that Paladin is literally in my favorite animation of the game, which is Passage of Arms. I say it all the time. I'm always like, guys, you want to see the best animation of the game? Check this out. So good.
Really cool.
Like any excuse that I have to use that's like, there's a stack marker? Oh boy, here we go. It's like, I don't even care if that stack marker doesn't deal damage. I'm using Passage of Arms every single time. Every excuse
Split mechanic
I have
uses it.
Yep, straight up. I don't care.
Oh dear.
Anytime that we take somebody's about to take damage, I'm like, I'll protect you. Passage of Arms.
Yeah, the collector's edition was irritating on many levels for people who were trying to get it, and the timing of that was awful, especially considering it was stupid o'clock in the morning for a lot of regions. They should have had like slow release of each of the available options to purchase it in different territories properly. I think that there wasn't enough, even though they say that it was record numbers and You know, again, referring to that article that I did a video on today, one of the questions was, is there any plans of adding new collector's editions? And Yoshi P basically dodged that question and confirmed that there wouldn't be, you know, due to the limitations of basically they've reached capacity of what they can issue because all of the stuff has an incredibly long time to create.
And the worst part
supposedly.
is that you know that a big portion of those were caught up by scalpers who are just going to like repost that into Amazon and eBay and resell them at like God knows what ridiculous price. Really sucks. Because it's like if I ever was going to get a collector's edition, this one would be the one. It's my main class with the thing and all of that. And it's friggin' amazing, but you know. So
I mean, there are some technically third-party sites, but they're more second-party that Square Enix do dealings with. From Japan, it will cost you, I did the maths on this, it was £20 to ship to the United Kingdom for this. So it's basically £20 more than if you were to buy it on a Square Enix store, and you can get the collector's edition box of items for basically the same price, just with a bit of shipping. And that is still available for pre-order on those second-party sites that Square Enix officially do business with as a reseller.
Okay, you got to give me a link when we're done. Link. Yeah, when we're done recording this, you give me a link. I'm gonna get that statue.
Yeah. So in terms of like delivery of those, I would recommend to you buy the collector's box, which has the physical items in it, and then buy your collector's edition digitally, so that you have the game to play on the day it comes out. But your collector's box will probably, I don't know, maybe later in that week or something, because of how shipping works. But yeah, they're still in stock. Okay. I'll give you that link later for sure.
So Reaper was officially unveiled. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, we kind of knew already that it was going to be like a Reaper scythe-wielding type class, but what'd you think of what we actually got?
Well, I was right. I called that it would be a scythe. I called the name of it. I called what role it would play. I called the fact it would have some kind of magical ability pet that wasn't a pet. And I was not disappointed in the slightest when they unveiled it. I was like, there we go. I knew this was going to happen somehow. It was the obvious decision. It's a beautiful looking job, in my opinion. It looks like it's going to take over the world. It really looks like it could be a lot of fun. And it fills the gap in terms of Dragoons getting gear to themselves. So it's nice to see that they would be added to that pool of gear as well. But the actions themselves look incredible. And the idea that you merge with the avatar to do increased damage adds to the idea of that job gauge being related to perhaps soul energy or blood energy or whatever that might be, right? That void energy, let's call that.
The juice energy. The void juice.
The juice energy. The void juice. And also we have a good link to that as well. A lot of people are like, well, how's this going to fit in? Well, apart from Xenos actually wielding it and being the same job, which is
there's
great.
The void quest. The thing is, you have those people that you talked about earlier. It's like, I want to play a healer. Yeah, then you don't know about the void quests.
Exactly. Like the void quests, if people have done them, they won't be asking the question of where does Reaper come from. Yeah. Like you can very much obviously see that connection, and it's beautiful to see. And it starts at level 70, which is 80. It starts at 80, doesn't it?
No, I think it starts at 70.
It is 70, yeah.
Because you still have to level. You still have to level through
right.
the Shadowbringers content. It's the same thing as Gunbreakers. Yeah, Gunbreakers still have to level through Stormblood before they go into Shadowbringers.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Really nice. I don't know what to say. It just looks exactly how I imagined it to be. So, I already know lots of people who are going to re-roll to it.
So now that we already know that for the role quests in Endwalker, we're going to have one of each type. So you're going to need a tank, a healer, physical DPS, ranged physical DPS, melee, and a ranged magical DPS. What are your 5 main classes that you want to focus on for these 5 roles?
5 main classes. White mage.
Not Sage.
I'm still in an I need to see job action trailers.
Yeah.
I need to see job action trailers, and I need to see it do something other than on a cutscene. Honestly, that little bit wasn't enough for me, and I need to see what abilities they have.
So
it's promising,
White Mage
but
still.
White Mage is, you start as a conjurer, you finish as a conjurer, sort of thing. White Mage definitely for healers. Just not interested in Astro changing, and I'm not interested in Scholar at all. That can be deleted
for me. For me, the healer is going to be Astro. Astro was the first healer I leveled to max, and it's like I don't think I'm going to have enough knowledge to properly play Scholar or Sage, because those are the preventative healers, so you have to like memorize the fights. Whereas if I play Astro or White Mage, I can more react heal, and that should be okay. So it gives me more room for mistakes as a healer, which is more comfortable. That's the way that I'm looking at it, because my main job is going to be tank anyway. But so I want to have an easier time when I'm healing. So I'm going to go for Astro, and I like the card mechanic. I've always liked it.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get homogenized any further. Eh?
Yeah, agree.
If for tank, I would probably lean back to my warrior. I just love warrior. I just hope that it gets the love it deserves to have once again. Paladin's great, don't get me wrong, but I'm a warrior.
I know. For a while there, I wanted to main the warrior too. Like I leveled the warrior up to max as well, and I loved warrior. He's like, oh, Felcleave, go, brrr, let's go, and friggin' nascent flash on AOE's, and you just can't die. It's like so good,
so good. Yes.
So yes, for a while there, I was drinking the warrior Kool-Aid, but then I slowly but surely went back to my paladin.
Melee DPS, I guess I'd be a fool not to say Reaper, but if it wasn't Reaper, it'd probably be Samurai. I do enjoy Samurai. I think it's great fun.
See, I think I'm actually gonna go Dragoon, because
really,
because I like the Reaper, and the Reaper does have one big advantage, which might eventually be what causes me to go Reaper instead, which is the fact that it starts at level 70, so I don't have to level it because I'm lazy. But I
level them all.
I kind of think that I like the idea of wielding a spear more than I do of wielding a scythe. So I don't know. I'm thinking more about Dragoon.
You're going to be the only Dragoon left. Everyone's going to be going Reaper, and you'll be the only Dragoon.
I'm the unique snowflake. There you go. See, that's even better.
There we go. You tick the box. They'll be so fed up of seeing all these bad Reapers. They'll be like, there's Rurikhan playing a Dragoon. This is one decent Dragoon in the world.
Yeah, right. More like, oh, look, there's Rurikhan, the floor tank.
And then they instantly regret it when they invite you.
Exactly.
I'm just the same. I'm bad at Dragoon. It's good fun, though, but I'm awful.
I don't know. I'm only level 16. I'll have to learn it still.
It's easy. Just if you've got a play dead emote, just learn that and then just repeat it. Okay. That's all it is. I fall off every mechanic. And
I see that's going to be something I'll have to deal with. Everybody making fun of me the whole time.
Just go do Titan, synchronized Titan Unreal as a Dragoon, and then we'll talk. If you do that, then you earn your Dragoon badge of pride and honor. Okay. If you can survive that.
Fair enough.
We got physical range next, is it?
Physical ranged, yeah.
Dancer, probably. I was going to say Bard, but there's no chance they're going to give Bard the love it needs. And Machinist is just overpowered, really. And it doesn't interest me, mostly because of the ether pack on the side of your leg. I can't stand it. It can't be glamoured away. So I hate Machinist for that.
Oh, interesting.
But it is strong.
I'm not a huge fan of the ether pack as well, but
it's horrible.
It's like I leveled the Machinist because I really like the gun kata moves that they do. It's like pow pow pow. It's like really cool animations and stuff like that. But I'm actually considering going to a Bard, and you're talking to someone that doesn't even like bows. But I like the idea of buffing other players while I'm also dealing DPS. I feel like the Machinist is selfish, but those are like the two ones that I would pick between. It'd be either Machinist or Bard. And I'm considering going for Bard because I just think the Machinist is too selfish. So, like, what do you bring to the party? Damage. What else? Not damage.
It's the same. It's the same people who would argue that a red mage wouldn't be useful in endgame, and I say that that's complete crap because when you're progressing through something, it's nice to have available reses, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I always come from the side of the field of saying, why not both? And that's why I always level 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the things in each role first. But that's just why, from a raiding mentality.
That's why I also want to level up a bard. Like first I want to level up a dragoon because I already have a ranged physical DPS, but I don't have a ranged melee DPS. So yeah.
Yeah.
And now for the caster.
Caster. That's a tricky one. You see, the thing is, I love Summoner at a minute, but I know it could get so much better. Black Mage complicates me too much. I struggle for some reason. I don't know why, even though it's simple, I struggle. But the Red Mage is just too darn useful. Like, it's just been so useful throughout everything I've done so far. Oh, I'm doing Bozja. I'm going to go Red Mage because then I won't die, and then I have like instant cast stuff and I can res people. Oh, I'm going to do this content. Oh, well, it's better if you solo this and it's faster if you do it with a Red Mage. Okay, right, okay. It's just, I love Summoner's power and just flashiness, but Red Mage is just, it's like the utility belt of the job. It really is.
No,
it comes down to being...
You just have to say, look, the Red Mage is the best caster, and that's why it's also my choice. There you go. It's that simple. He's the best caster. Like, I'm sorry.
It is.
I know that there's people are going to be like, oh, but Black Mage, it's like, no. Listen. Red Mage, though. It's the best.
Black Mage, it has insane damage, and it's a glass cannon, but can I solo everything in the game with it? No. Can I with a Red Mage? Yeah. Yeah, very nearly, actually.
Red Mage was so fun. Because, like, I already had a caster because I leveled a Scholar, so I had the Summoner. But I was like, I don't like Summoner. So I started playing Red Mage. And I also really like the story of the Red Mage. It's really good. So
it is, yeah.
I got pretty addicted to Red Mage for a while there.
And
yeah, he'd be my my choice. But
it's just a natural decision because you know you're not going to have any problems with it.
Yeah.
At all.
And like I've had situations where like the healer died because they're focusing on DPS more than healing the party or even themselves, as it seems like. And I'll just be in there with the Red Mage. I'm like, this is fine. I'll just like keep healing everybody. I'll res the healer. It's like it's all good, no problem.
It's less punishing on the Red Mage to res as well. Like if you're a summoner, the last thing you want to do is res every 5 minutes because you're just not going to do anything. With a Red Mage, you can recover so quickly. You know, the rotation is so basic and understandable. It's so hard to mess up. And that's another reason I play is because it's quite simple. And I'm a simple person.
It's easy. It's like,
it is.
I play Red Mage because it's easy. What about the versatility of the Red Mage, though?
Versatility, what? No, it's got a place in progression. And I think more people should admit that instead of just saying, oh, we need the best DPS of the best of the universe. Apart from one of the world first teams used a Red Mage, so I like bringing that up.
It's such a small percentage, I feel like, when it comes to the differences between the classes in 14, because I almost think that mentality probably comes from people that used to play World of Warcraft, and they're like, well, this character is not viable, this raid tier. Yeah. Because it actually wasn't viable. It's not one of those things, well, this character does a little bit less damage. It's like, no, this is just like not viable.
It's because they had specializations as well in that game, and we don't have that. So we don't have the difference between a Beastmaster or a marksmanship. It's just a bard or a whatever. A bard's good. Well, yeah, everything's been balanced to be okay at endgame. Yeah, there are always going to be the ones that do Black Mage damage, but does Black Mage have the versatility of anything else? No. Does it have to stand still in mechanics? Yes, to pull those numbers. Like my friend is a Black Mage, and he's like, Black Mage is the best thing in the world. I'm like, the amount of times I have to rescue him out of mechanics or just heal him extra, I'm like, you do realize you're padding my healing passes. He's like, oh, I thought you'd be happy with that. I was like, not really. I'd like to DPS, please. Oh,
man. But anyways,
that's the game we play.
That is Final Fantasy XIV, and we've been talking for like over 2 hours now, and YouTube is going to love throttling this video slowly but surely.
Imagine how many mid rolls they're gonna try and place on this.
No. I manually edit the mid rolls to prevent that stuff happening.
Thank goodness.
But it's funny looking at it. Like every time I go to a really long video and I go to edit the mid rolls, and it's just like within the first 30 minutes, there's like 20 mid rolls or something like that, and you're just like, what is wrong with you, YouTube? You're crazy.
It's a weird algorithm.
No video should have 20 mid rolls unless it's like I don't know, at least a 10-hour video or something like that.
Yeah, like a 20-hour stream or something, but I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, though. Thank you so much for having me on.
Likewise. Love having you. You're just hard to get a hold of. That's the problem. You have to like...
It is a problem, man. I can't apologize enough. It's just been one thing after another. And you think, oh, you've got these 2 days free, and then something happens or something bad happens in real life, and then you've got to deal with...
It's been crazy.
Pets dying this day, money problems this day, someone needs a lift this day, life sucks sometimes.
It's insane. But I'll be happy to have you on a little bit later down the line, of course, to talk more about 14 or Rise or whatever. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, there's going to be links to all of Meoni's stuff in the description below. We'll see you guys on the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.
Peace.